few days have passed. It is now currently Saturday when I'm recording this video, and I got this thing up and running completely now. So what I've done is I went to my Free Geek a few days ago, and I had to replace the DVD drive a few times because the original drive in this thing was bad. I went through two other drives over there. I got one that was working, but when I got home, that drive that was working died. Probably died on the way to my house and whatnot. Luckily, we had a few other IDE DVD drives laying around, and I was able to find one that works with this Mac, and now I have a fully working DVD drive, and I also have macOS installed. I did borrow the macOS install disk we actually have at my local Free Geek to do that, but I now have macOS installed, and everything's up and running. Another thing I did is I also upgraded the RAM from, I think, like half a gig to a grand total of 2 gigs. This thing officially supports a gig, but it unofficially supports 2. And since it does work with 2 gigs, why not put 2 gigs in this thing? So with that said, as you can tell, it's pretty much working completely fine. The one thing I do want to change out though is the hard drive in this thing. It's only a 20 gig drive. Reason being is because since I was constantly swapping stuff in and out of this thing when I was over at Free Geek, I was like, I'm tired of this thing at that point when we're about to close. I was like, how much is the drive? They said $1, so I was like, okay, I'll buy the drive for $1. The 2 sticks of RAM were a total of $2, so I spent another $3 on this thing. And let's be honest, taking this thing apart over and over and over again was a massive pain in the butt. But since I now have this thing up and running, I want to swap out that 20 gig drive for a higher capacity drive. I will be swapping it out for this drive right here, which is complete overkill for this computer. But I want to have a high capacity drive in this thing because I do want to see what I can do with this thing in 2023, which really isn't much, but I still do something with it. The one thing I want to do with it is I want to see Sims 2 running on it. Apparently there is a version of Sims 2 with all the expansions that will work on this Power Mac G4. But at first I need to swap out the drives and whatnot. But before I do all that, I want to go over the little hard drive right here. Initially I thought this hard drive was mine. Turns out it was actually my father's. Now yesterday I spent all yesterday setting up an old XP machine right here to actually pull data off this thing and do a backup and whatnot. And since it was my father's old hard drive, there's really nothing there to back up because he already has this thing backed up literal years ago. Now, I did record the whole process, but I didn't like how it came out because, let's be honest, this is an old Dell, and it was kind of boring. But as you can tell right now, I'm currently in the process of updating this thing through Legacy Updater, and Windows XP is running completely fine. And thanks to this, I now want to get myself a proper XP gaming rig set up. And since again I'm a volunteer at my local Free Geek, I constantly see what we have in the back. And Lord knows I'll find a fairly competent XP bare bones unit that I can use to fully set up a proper XP gaming rig and whatnot. But that will be for a separate video down the road. For right now, the intention is all on the iMac right here. Actually, before I do anything, I actually need to create another macOS install disk. Since I don't have that official install disk I was using from my local Free Geek, because again, I was only able to borrow it for a day, because again, I am a volunteer and we do actually need that install disk over at Free Geek whenever we have one of these types of Macs over there, because we have quite a few older iMacs over at my Free Geek that I need to work on. So I went to Office Depot yesterday after I got done dropping off the dead DVD drive and the macOS install disk. And I bought 50 of these guys right here for $50. Reason being is because they're the higher capacity DVD drives, and to install and to make a bootable DVD drive for macOS Leopard, I need a higher capacity drive. So luckily, I do have a somewhat older MacBook Pro I can use to theoretically set one of these up. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to take you along the process of that. That's probably going to be pain. I'm hoping it's going to be quick and simple, but you never know. I hit the power button to turn it off, but it actually went to sleep. So, for giggles, let's see if my wireless mouse here that's very, very new will work on this computer. My wired, well, technically wireless, but wired Razer mouse actually worked. So I don't see why that wouldn't. So let's plug it into the back and see what happens. I hear the hard drive clicking. It found something. You're kidding me, the mouse actually works? It's not a keyboard. It's a freaking mouse. Ooh, that's some frame rate lag, but whatever. It's probably due to the hard drive, but yeah. My freaking wireless Logitech mouse actually works on this thing. That's actually impressive. If I really wanted to, I can go full wireless with this setup right here. That's actually impressive considering this is like, what, a 20-something odd year old computer? And never in its life did it ever expect to have a Logitech G, whatever this is, as a mouse. So I'm going to let this shut down, then I'm going to get my MacBook Pro set up and whatnot and come back. Alright, apparently it's going to be as simple as right-clicking and telling it to burn. This is the first time I try to do a burn of an ISO on a Mac computer, so if it's just as simple as this, then so be it. So I'll just hope that doesn't fail, because, well, that's going to be $1 wasted. Basically $1 per disc, and I really don't like that exchange. So if I can get this to burn without failing, I'm happy. From the looks of it, the CD does in fact work. So next step to do is to fully disassemble this thing again so I can put my higher capacity hard drive in it and actually use it for something. So I will get that done when I'm done playing Sea of Thieves. Once again, I popped the bottom cover of the G4 Mac off, so you can kind of see what I did. Got myself a nice little G-Skill stick. The DRAM battery's in place. Let's see. On the other side is, give me a second, I don't want to drop this thing for obvious reasons, is the other 1 gig stick I bought. And again, the one thing I'm really happy with is this little G-Skill kit. Do I need this nice set of RAM in this Mac? No. But since it was in the RAM box over at Free Geek when I was out buying RAM and whatnot, I thought, why not get it just because I can? So, I don't remember how much I talked about in the previous video, but I did replace the PRAM battery like I mentioned. When it comes to thermal paste, I am reapplying new thermal paste. This is not Corsair, but actually I think it is Corsair. Corsair thermal paste, and complete overkill for this thing, but it does a job. I should theoretically reapply thermal paste on the CPU, but I don't know how to actually do that, and I don't want to lift off the heatsink and actually irreparably damage it. Granted, I can probably look up how to do this on YouTube. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. Alright, figured out how to pop the clamp off. It's actually really easy. I think someone's been in here, though. This thermal paste is still wet. Well, it's a little dry, but that's definitely not original thermal paste. So whoever originally owned this thing actually did look after it. So I guess I didn't have to reapply thermal paste, but I'm going to do it anyways. For those that are wanting to know what a G4 processor looks like, this is what it looks like. It's actually fairly basic, to be honest, but then again, that is to be expected considering how old this computer is. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not doing anything with this, is I think this thing is using thermal glue, and I'm not going to pull it off. I believe this is the GPU, and I'm not going to pull the heatsink off to find out. So I'm going to put everything back together, replace the hard drive, and come back. I was right. It is Corsair thermal paste. Complete overkill for this class of computer, but I honestly don't care. And plus, considering I actually want to use this thing for a while before I actually gut it, I want to give it the best optimal performance as much as I can. So yeah, like I said before, I'll come back when I get the hard drive swapped out and whatnot. Alright, everything's back together. Now the $64 question. Did I kill the thing? All right, everything still seems to work. So next question, can I use my keyboard here to open up the DVD drive? Theoretically, I should be able to, but I gotta wait for this to finish up. All right, it's done thinking. Of course, it didn't want to open up, go figure, so I gotta manually open it. I'll be right back. Reason why my keyboard is not wanting to work with the DVD drive right now is because there's no OS installed and it's not a proper Apple keyboard. If it was a proper Apple keyboard, it could either be a new one or obviously the old one. The eject key would work, but yeah. Alright, I'll just let it read the disk. It is also very nice to see that 300 gig drive I put in here is actually fully detected. Granted, it's not detecting the full 320, but still. At least it actually detected it and it's working completely fine. So with that said, I'm going to go through the process of setting this thing up off camera because it's boring, and I'll come back when I get this thing up and running fully. Well, just because the hard drive detected doesn't mean it was going to be a pain in the butt to set up. But I finally got it up and running. I had to repartition it as a Mac something, whatever it's called. I forget what it's actually called. But when I got done doing that, it showed up as just a white paper. I formatted multiple times to try and fix that. And all I really had to do was just restart the computer. And, well, now everything's working as it should. So I should be able to just hit continue and install macOS on my computer again. So, barring anything from going wrong, I'll come back when this is actually complete. I should have been timing how long it takes, but it's been a while. It's finally almost over? Doubtful. macOS is now installed, and now I'm checking for updates. Luckily, this thing can connect to my internet through Ethernet, and I'm able to actually still use the internet on this thing. Granted, I can't do much, but at least it works. And just like that, it found the new updates. And with that said, of course. Also, this is the fastest this Mac has ever downloaded anything. Also, another thing I want to mention is my very modern Razer mouse fully works, and my fairly modern potato grade gaming keyboard also works on this Mac, which is honestly very impressive for how old this thing is and how actually plug and play it is with modern technology, which is again really impressive. Alright, everything's more or less ready to go when it comes to this G4 iMac. Nothing else to really talk about because let's be honest, this thing is kind of potato in 2023. It can't even run Sims 2. I tried. The one thing that really lets this computer down is the GPU that's inside it. It can't even render the dock properly. But surprisingly enough, there are certain websites that actually still launch and whatnot. I tried getting iTunes up and running, but I had to use QuickBuy to download QuickTime. I initially went to oldversion.net or .com, whatever you call it. That site actually loads up without any issues whatsoever. But the QuickTime download link is some weird file format that the Mac here can't load. But if I go to Safari, and I go to history, and I go to, where is the option? Here. It may take a little bit, but it actually loads up. The only problem with the site, at least for what I wanted to do with it, the file format was unusable on the iMac. But, or Mac or whatever you call it, I don't know how to properly call this thing, but whatever. It's up and running and everything's working as it should. I will show Sims 2 for a brief bit. I mean, for goodness sakes, it has a hard time running the intro video. It is definitely not smooth. But with that said, I did find another little thing interesting about this computer. Even though this thing came out in 2001, the volume wheel on my keyboard here actually works, which is honestly impressive. But, I mean, you clearly see how atrocious Sims 2 is going to be just by this intro screen alone. I really don't well, I mean, I do need to show more, but let's be honest, you can already see how bad it's going to be. This is the Sims 2 experience on this computer. Again, more than likely what's letting this computer down when it comes to running Sims 2 is the built-in GPU, some NVIDIA of some sort. But again, I didn't really buy this thing for Sims 2. It would be nice if it could actually run better than this, but again, I didn't buy this computer for Sims 2. I bought it because I want to modify it sometime down the road. And plus, again, I've always wanted one of these G4 iMacs. And the fact I finally have one is really nice. So I'm just going to use this thing as is for a while and just stick it up right there whenever I'm not using it, or find a better place for it in my room, because again, this is something I've been wanting for a long time and I'm very happy I own it. So now I need to figure out how exactly I'm going to go through modifying this thing and whatnot, because again, I just got this thing up and running again, and I want to make sure that when I pull this thing apart to modify it, I can at the very least try and reverse it and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video in general. Oh, I forgot to mention that I do have a few computers that do properly run Sims 2. I am planning on building a proper XP gaming desktop. I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I do plan on building that at some point. Yeah, I did mention it before, so yeah, end of the video, I guess.